Pro Tour Yokohama. I'm Randy Bueller here with Brian David Marshall. Time to do a little pregame. The players are just starting to gather at the chairs. Got a supply Diet Coke and green tea. Got the laptop hooked up to the forums. We are ready for a day of magic. This is going to be a fun one.
Really exciting top eight. One of the just most experienced top eights we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I can't remember the time we went into a top eight with this many storylines. 23 top eights between these guys.
And that includes two players playing in their first top eight.
Yeah.
And even those players are players who you've been playing their decks and seeing,
There was that Chicago that had Finkel and Buddha.
Oh, I mean, that's obviously the.
But I mean, you have to go. How many top eights have rivaled this one? That one, okay. Finkel, Buddha, Turing and Herzog. That one is as good. Maybe argue a little better. I'm not going to say this is the best top eight of all time.
It's got Finkel and Kai in it. It's automatically the best top eight of all time.
That's the only one they doubled up?
I believe so.
I know it's the only one they played in.
Yeah, I believe so.
But, this bordering on historic.
Well, we've certainly got someone who's, thrust themselves into the argument to be discussed in the same breath as John and Kai.
Yeah, Masashio Oiso.
Yeah.
Masashio Oiso was clearly on top of the game a couple of years ago. Rattled off 5 top eights in the span of, 3 years?
Yeah. Starting in this very hall.
In Yokohama.
The same room we're in 2003, Masashio Oiso just was, some Japanese guy in the top 8.
It's true. In a top 8 that included John Finkel, in a top 8 that was won by Matthias Jorstedt. Yeah. So Oiso rattles off 5 top 8s over the course of 3 years. Becomes one of the most feared players on tour. Picks up a protege, mentors a small, spiky-haired Japanese kid named Kenji Samura. So he's got that going for him, too. And then kind of takes a break from the game. He gets really serious about school. He's in sort of the equivalent of a master's program here. It's pretty intense. He barely got level 3 this year. He's qualified for all the Pro Tours. He hasn't actually been to one since, did we think Charleston?
I think Charleston was the last one where he was qualified and took 2 friends that he'd been playing Magic with for a long time because he wanted to have a lot of fun and reward them for supporting him through his Magic career.
And it's chances are he'll go to San Diego for a similar sort of a reason.
Absolutely.
But I mean, the Pro Tour came back to his country, so in Japan he's qualified, and why not, right? Didn't do a lot of practice. Got a deck from a buddy. Now what's the story with where the deck came from?
So the deck comes from Kazuki Ueno.
Okay.
And same thing. Masashi's first Pro Tour was Pro Tour New York 2001.
A Teams Pro Tour.
Teams Pro Tour, and he played with Ueno. Ueno, I believe, brought him to that Pro Tour, essentially.
Oh, wow.
And Kazuki built the deck for this tournament.
Okay.
It's kind of interesting also, his playtesting experience for this event. Masashi, he didn't play a lot of block, but he did play the deck a lot against his roommate at university, who's a more casual Magic player, and he play tested against Legacy and Extended decks. So, you think he doesn't know how to play around Cancel. I mean, this guy's been playing around Counterspell.
Playing around Force of Will.
Exactly.
Fair enough. And so it's a nice little red-green deck. It's, it's probably not the tightest red-green deck in the top 8.
No.
Right? It's not super fine-tuned with the pure Razor's Edge against exactly the predicted field, but I mean, it's a solid deck, and Oiso was able to pick it up and pilot it flawlessly, and here he sits in the top 8. So, I mean, I love the storyline here. The guy's he rattles off 5 top 8s, takes a break from the game, gets serious about school. He still, comes, plays for fun. Pro Tour comes back to his, more or less hometown. He's like, hey, remember me? Yeah, I'm still that good. Here's top 8, number 6.
It reminds me a lot of Nassif.
When the Pro Tour came to Paris, when Worlds came to Paris?
When Worlds came to Paris, and, suddenly he picks up that 6th.
Yeah, that's true.
That really sort of, Pantheon-making 6th top 8.
Yeah, 6 is really the line where there's a bunch of people with 5. There's easily a dozen.
But there's only now 5 players with 6.
Yeah. John has 12?
John has 11, I think.
11. Kai has 9. Darwin has 7. And then you've got Gabe Nassif and Masashio Oiso sitting on 6.
And we almost had 2 players hit the 6 club yesterday.
Olivier Ruel is one of those in the lump at 5, and he was playing for it in the last round.
He was 1 game away from it.
Yeah. He lost to Carvalho?
I believe he lost to Carvalho, yes. I don't know.
He lost a couple of rounds down the stretch. He was at the top the entire day, pretty rough schedule, honestly. It felt like he and Fujita, it seemed like every single round they were in the feature match area because they got to the top of the Swiss and they kept getting paired against good players, and they're awesome players themselves. So pretty tough road, and only came up one short.
No one had a tougher day yesterday than Karsten.
He was paired against more than just his opponents. He was paired against the bucket.
He was paired against microbes.
Yes. Karsten just looked awful. He was throwing up sick, literally carrying a bucket around the entire day. His hair is all messed up. Looked like,
Yeah. He was again a game off of this topic.
Yeah, he was playing a pretty clean win-in match in the final round against Echevarria, the Chilean player who was at the top of the Swiss for much of the weekend as well. And they played it out, and it was control versus control. And Karsten took the first game, and Echevarria took the second game. They never finished game 3. Yeah. It was close too. It came down to the end, and Karsten made a play to like win the game if only there were 5 or 10 more minutes on the clock. And Echevarria was playing to try to win within time. So then they got down to the end, and they're trying to talk each other into conceding, and I'm winning, and I would be winning, except I played to win within time, and they drew. Neither one of them made top 8.
No one blinked.
Nobody. No. I can kind of see Echevarria's point. He did make the play to try to win on time. Karsten was in a winning position at the end, but only because he played differently vis-a-vis the clock.
Right.
So the beneficiary of all this, Rookie of the Year, Sebastian Thaler.
Who was on the wrong end of this kind of situation in Geneva.
Absolutely.
I mean, what a great year this guy's having already.
It's true. It's hard to believe this is his first top 8. Oh, there's just a picture of Frank in the bucket. Yeah. Thaler, somehow this is his first top 8. He won Rookie of the Year without a top 8. He's like top 16. Won 2 Grand Prix.
Yeah, I think he won 1 Grand Prix. One Grand Prix and had another strong finish in another.
Right, and then he shows up, and he was on the verge of the top 8 at the last Pro Tour in Geneva. Just needed a draw in the final round, but Kenji Samura played Dream Wrecker, trying to help a buddy of his get in, and to knock Thaler out to make one more spot for somebody to sneak in. Thaler lost that match to Kenji, so first top 8, had to wait a whole one more Pro Tour, and now here he is with. By the way, I think Thaler's deck is my favorite in this top 8.
Go to YouTube right now and watch this deck tech, or watch it on our page.
Absolutely.
His deck is fantastic. I think I don't know what Future Sight offers this deck archetype, but to me this was one of the top 2 or 3 deck lists I saw all tournament long.
I agree. I love it, and it's very much. I mean. Sort of those of you who've been watching the game for a long time may remember the Angry Hermit deck that Aaron Forsythe used. He won regionals, he won U.S. nationals, got on the national team. That was Finkel's year that, Finkel did the double, won the world's team title and the individual title. And Forsythe actually built this deck for his brother. His brother, who's a casual player, Neil, wanted to go to regionals, and Aaron just put this thing together, and it's this red-green, acceleration and land destruction and fatties, and it just worked, and it kept winning. And then Aaron wound up playing it at Nationals, winning Nationals. Mike Turian played it to get to top 8 of that Nationals. And the idea, I'm calling it an Angry Hermit deck. It doesn't overlap by very many cards, Mountain, Forest, and I think Avalanche Riders.
Right.
But the template is almost exactly the same. The idea behind this style of deck is you play a ton of mana, because it's got, you've got your normal 24-ish lands, but then on top of that you want to play Elves and and Wall of Roots.
Wall of Roots, Monvali Acid Moss, which is land destruction and mana.
And then there's Search for Tomorrow in there as well, right?
Yeah,
so it's something. It works out
Prismatic Lens and Withered Sea.
Right. It works out to be something like 32 mana cards, even not counting the land destruction. And the idea is you accelerate on turn 2, you blow up a land on turn 3 with either Avalanche Riders or Monvali Acid Moss. For Forsythe, it was Creeping Mold or Avalanche Riders. Now you've got a mana advantage, you've accelerated and stunted them, and now suddenly you can come out with some just huge, powerful spell because you keep going up the chain. And the deck doesn't have that many threats at the end of the day.
But the threats it does have.
It's like 4 Bogan and Hellkites, 3 Spectral Force, and then after that it's just like the Disintegrates?
3 Disintegrates, which is very interesting because when we talked to Thaler, he just said, I don't really like Stormbind.
Right.
And the idea behind it is, you invest all these cards in developing your mana, and then you don't have a lot of cards in hand to throw to Stormbind. And then all the cards that you want to use all that mana for, you want to be able to hold them in your hand till the right time. Right. You don't want to have to randomly throw away your Bogan and Hellkite.
Yeah, you
can you Disintegrate.
Yeah, I think you can build a red-green that wants Stormbind and use the Stormbind effectively, but this is not the deck. This deck is play out all the lands, super greedy.
Right.
It's only got 7 huge threats, but, that template just clearly works. It worked for Thaler. It worked for Forsythe back in the day. It just feels like it's this, meta-level archetype with, acceleration, land destruction, 7 just huge, powerful threats. You know, there are just formats where that's an awesome winning recipe.
Right.
And it's redundant because it's like 8 of this and 7 of that. You pretty much can always get, you don't necessarily get the same cards every draw, but you get the same kinds of cards every draw. It gives it a consistency that's...
One of the things I love about the deck also, it has like a socket where there's a whole component of your deck that's really good against beatdown that you can just unscrew, put in your sideboard, and then screw in your control package.
Yeah, it's true.
So it's I think it's a really exciting deck.
So we're gonna have time to cover all these stories
No,
before
we're
the
not.
matches get started. I can see the guys are shuffling up.
We talked about Oiso. I mean, what about Mark Herberholz?
Yeah, that's the marquee matchup in the quarters for my tastes. Oiso versus Herberholz. You've got Oiso with he reached the pantheon of 6 top 8s. Herberholz has got 4 of his own.
Herberholz has like a Bob Marr-esque career at this point.
Interesting.
And he's put together the Pro Tour win. He's got, I think he's got the GP win.
Yeah.
Or he's certainly got the GP top 8s. He's got 4 Pro Tour top 8s, which is what Bob has. I mean, he doesn't have Bob's resume fully, but you know what I mean. It has that sort of flavor. And don't you think of Heasy as a limited player somehow? Like
he used to. His first top 8 was limited, and he's been playing the side draft circuit since he was like 12.
But three constructed top 8s, a constructed win, 2 block constructed top 8s.
Yeah, I think you've really got to give this guy credit for being a real master of constructed at this point. He's clearly got a talent for sizing up a constructed field, finding the soft spot, and then exploiting it. I mean, in Honolulu, he was like, oh, everybody's going to have control decks. I'm going to be able to go with this beatdown deck that looks a little funny. I mean, the numbers in Heasy Street still look weird to this day, but he just understood the environment so well, and his teammates had sort of established the environment, and Heasy was able to come in and go, okay, these guys seem like they figured the environment out. Here's the soft spot. Out comes Heasy Street. Out comes a Pro Tour win. This seems like a very similar sort of a story, right? He's on a list with a bunch of good players. You know, Gabe Nassif was on that team. Rich Hohen. You know, a bunch of good guys, and they pretty much understood the environment. And then Heasy was the guy who came in and said, let's take this. Let's take our mystical teaching sort of blue-black control deck. Let's start to put a bunch of white in the deck. Right. We get a bunch of good one-offs for the Arcane Teachings package. We get the Fairies moat that just seems amazing against this environment. Now, he couldn't get the mana right. It's funny. He said, you know, he had the deck and he thought it was good and he knew the mana was wrong and he just like stopped playing it for a couple of days. He's like, you guys play test this. I'll come back in 3 days when you figured out how the mana should work.
And the storage lands were the key for him.
All the planes were gone. The storage lands were in instead. Well, most of the planes were gone. Right. And so, you know, really nice team dynamic. But I mean, Heasy was the one who was like, here's the soft spot in the environment. We're going to put the white splash in with the Fairies mode and just nailed the format. Right.
And one of the, it's interesting. I think you talked about Heasy's talent. I think Heasy's talent is also getting people to underestimate him. You know, he plays the lovable party, you know, hard partying goofball a lot of the time. You know, crazy guy. But he's, I mean,
he's super smart.
You watch his deck tech that we did with him.
Yeah.
You watch his deck tech from Worlds, and you realize how sharp this guy is about constructed. And when we talked to him about building this deck, he really looked back at what the Japanese deck builders who've been doing very well for the past couple of years. He said, well, how are these guys approaching formats? How are these guys putting answers in their decks to the problems that you face? And how are they preparing their deck
succeed against both beatdown and control,
for 2 different terrains?
Succeed on day 2.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And he really is just a student of the game. Understands what works. I mean, I feel like this is not the Mark Herberholz. This is not the image that he tries to portray, but what's there?
I've come away from this event with a. I mean, I like Mark a lot. Yeah. But I mean, I've come away with a much deeper respect for him out of talking to him this event.
Certainly will be interesting. The match between him and Oiso should be definitely a fun one.
It always feels like there's a heartbreaker. in the quarters. I mean, obviously, you'd love to see this finals.
There's still plenty of room for some awesome finals. I mean, let's talk about Rafael Levy versus Tomoharu Saito. I mean, how often is that quarterfinal not even the lead?
Right.
Hall of Famer Rafael Levy. It's just, I think, you know, was it the fact, like, he got elected to the Hall of Fame, and he was clearly not based on results purely, right? I mean, he had, you know, not the best resume of the people that got voted in the Hall of Fame. He got voted in based on longevity. He'd just been to something like 50 Pro Tours in a row. You know, consistent winner. Always finishes in the money.
Emblemizing the Pro Tour lifestyle.
Absolutely.
Someone who's qualified for 50 consecutive Pro Tours.
No, I mean, awesome guy. I love that Rafael Levy's in the Hall of Fame. I mean, I think that I like the way the Hall is going, that it will recognize a guy like a Rafael Levy. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think he heard the whispers of people are like, really? That's the guy? He's only got the 2 top 8s. And like, since he got elected, he's gone berserk. He won back-to-back constructed Grand Prix. He hadn't won a Grand Prix since Toulouse in 1998. Yeah. Right? back-to-back top wins in Grand Prix. You know, he's traveling around the world. He's up to like level 5 based on last year.
I think
wasn't content with the level 3 he gets from being a Hall of Famer. He earned the level 5 on his own merits. Shows up to this Pro Tour. I mean, he made money in Geneva, top 50 there. Shows up to this Pro Tour, and here's top 8, number 3, his first top 8 since 1999. And what's gotten into this guy?
And his constructed rating is 5,984.
It must be. It's got to be ridiculous.
That was very funny in the deck tech. We talked to him, and he said he had just lost round 5, and he said that my rating will never be this high again.
Yeah,
guess what, Levy? You've got a shot.
He'll be playing against Tomohiro Saito. Saito, the other Pro Tour champion in this top 8 other than Herbert Holtz.
His 4th top 8.
4th top 8. Saito can clearly play the game as well. So, now what's the matchup there?
Saito is playing Pizza Stompy.
Okay, not C Stompy
not
this time,
Stompy,
but Pizza Stompy.
I don't think he understands what the word Stompy means fully, because I think he
it means decked with forests, right?
I think he thinks it means decked with 5/5 for 4.
Oh, okay.
Because you have
his 5/5 for 4 is Timbermare.
It's sort of 4 and 5. It's 4.5.
4.5.
4.5. Yeah, he's playing a red deck which just touches green for Stormbind and Timbermare. He also has Pendelhaven to make like his Gopmog War Marshal.
Pendelhaven not really a green card though. I saw people playing mono red with Pendelhaven.
Sure, absolutely.
Antonino and Ben Rubin did that.
But his deck is it's the shortest deck list. When you look at all these deck lists,
it's all 4s.
It's just all 4s. You know, and 1, 2, and a couple 3s.
1, 3.
Yeah. 1, 3. Yeah, 1, 3 in the sideboard. It's just really straightforward. It looks like a deck list, a much older deck list.
He seems pretty good. I mean, this is his design. I mean, he's been one of the guys designing a lot of the best Japanese decks in recent years. So it's his design, solid base red aggro deck. He's got the Blood Knight Sulfur Elemental package to smack White Weenie around. You know, got that taken care of on day 1. Day 2 still had plenty of games. I mean, you know, Magus of the Scroll, Timbermare, Stormbind was able to beat the control decks as well.
Yeah, too bad for Saito he can't play White Weenie in this matchup. Which bracket is the White Weenie deck in?
Yeah, exactly. When's the last time you saw a White Weenie deck on the top table?
Oh, I don't.
I think I saw one of the feature match area in round 2, and then that was it.
They were in the back of the room the entire day.
Yeah,
and the few of them that were on day 2, and they actually formed. There was like 5 or 6 of them. They formed a support group. You know, it's like, hi, my name is Elias Vosberg, and I play White Weenie. I'm sorry.
Yeah. That definitely the storyline for this format. Everyone showed up loaded for White Weenie. Yeah. Based on that Magic Online Premier event, we keep talking about it. Everyone expected White Weenie.
They either showed up with ready for White Weenie, or they showed up with a target on their head.
Yeah. So
I mean, and people were so excited whenever they got to play White Weenie on day 2. Yeah. It felt like a golden ticket. Yeah, they're like, "Yay! I finally got to play a White Weenie deck. I beat him." Yeah.
So Saito clearly, I mean, the decks that made this top 8 were the ones who concede against the other decks, because there were no White Weenie decks on the top tables down the stretch, none at all. No. Saito clearly got the job done. Levy has his take on a red-green deck, which is basically a red deck. A couple of fungal reaches just for
his disintegrates.
Yeah. Oh, not even a green card in the sideboard. Yeah.
No, he's got 3 storage lands to pump up his disintegrates.
So mono red again, Blood Knight, Sulfur Elemental as the anti-White Weenie package. Levy's got a couple of Wildfire Emissaries in the main. Saito's all 4 in the sideboard. And then Levy's is very much trying to burn you out. I mean, it's much more sort of Red Deck Win style. You know, Saito's going to try to play a 5/5. Levy's just going to come out with Keldon Marauders and just get 5 in for a card and feel good about it. You know, 18 creatures, 18 burn spells. The most expensive creature is, I guess, the 2 emissaries, but they'll come out. They'll have just, 2 and 3 mana creatures. Who has the advantage in that matchup?
Levy feels he's heavily advantaged.
Really?
He
feels like you want bigger creatures? Doesn't mono red lose to red green?
Well, he's got the Greater Gargadons after sideboard. He's got the Word of Season Greater Gargadon package.
Okay. Yeah, that would be pretty good against after sideboarding, wouldn't it? And Saito's sideboard is, I mean, he gets Dead Gons, but
here's the dynamic that Levy described after sideboarding, is that Saito wants his Dead Gons, right? He wants to sit on his Dead Gons. If there's an impending
Gargadon, he needs to bounce it.
He can't use his Stormbind if he's holding Dead Gon.
Because he can't afford to risk losing it, or Gargadon will destroy him.
Right.
Interesting.
So, I mean, Levy apparently played against Stormbind decks all day.
Yeah, that's
really feels like he understands
That's the kind of insight that comes from somebody that's really playtested the format and understand what's going on. That's pretty interesting. Yeah, Saito does not have the Gargadon. So Gargadon does seem like it could be the difference there. The Gargadon Word of Season package, pretty good against big creatures.
Yeah. And Aaron the Relentless.
The one little miser in the sideboard. There's some awesome time-shifted cards in this top 8. So we talked a little bit about Sebastian Thaler. He'll be playing against Kazuya Mitamura in the quarterfinals. Now, Mitamura was a member of that Charleston top 8. The top 8 that Saito won. There were 2 Japanese teams that played on Sunday at that event. Right. The other one was basically Ryuichi Arida's team, is how everybody thought of it, but it did include Mitamura.
Playing in his second block-constructed top 8.
In a row.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Ravnica block constructed. So Mitamura's got the control deck in the format. He's got the blue-black, whether you want to call it a Teferi deck or a Mystical Teachings deck or... Oh, sounds like we may be just about ready. So, about a minute from getting started here at Pro Tour Yokohama. Thaler versus Mitamura. Who's your pick?
Thaler versus Mitamura. I'm picking Thaler.
Yeah, I love Thaler's deck. I hope it wins. I'm not sure I understand the matchup yet, but I love Thaler's deck, so I'm with you there.
I like his control package.
The 4th quarterfinal is Paulo Carvalho from Portugal. He was in the world's top 8. This is only his 3rd Pro Tour ever, and he's got 2 top 8s now. Pretty impressive. Playing against Guillaume Wafotapa. Now, here's a guy who, he top 16 Honolulu. You all played his deck in that qualifier round or played against it.
Right. After Honolulu, everyone plays blue-white Wafotapa.
Absolutely. And then at Worlds, he's the guy that built the first Dralnu deck.
Right.
That really took over Standard after Worlds.
Right. No one, it's funny. People say Boros, people say Simic. No one says Dimir anymore.
They just say Dralnu.
They just say Dralnu.
Yeah.
They talk about a blue-black deck. They talk about Dralnu.
So, you talk about constructed specialists. Here's a guy, thoroughly deserving of his first top 8. Awesome deck designer, and now awesome deck pilot as well. He's finally had the breakthrough into his top 8. So those are the matchups. Going to be a lot of fun. Masashi Oiso and Mark Herberholz are standing by. We'll be back momentarily with quarterfinal coverage of Pro Tour Yokohama.